Hi, I'm Catherine Mangiardi, and you're listening to Fierce Females Podcast. Each episode will strive to bring you the very best fierce females, from CEOs, entrepreneurs, nutritionists, healers, and just badass moms that are changing the status quo by living up to their full potential, all in hopes to inspire you to go out and live the life that you were meant to live. As women, we were all more alike than we are different, and we've all been through life challenges in one way or another. And you are not alone in the fight. So let's empower, learn, and lift each other up. See you next time. Welcome. My name is Catherine Mangiardi. Welcome to Fierce Females podcast and YouTube. I'm here today with Jeanne Shockey, COO of Chicago Liposuction Center, a multi-million-dollar business, and owner of Blue Light ABA Consulting. And she has such a remarkable story I'm so excited to share with all of you today. Her story of overcoming adversity is absolutely amazing. And so I would just love to jump right in it with you, Jeanne. So you obviously are COO of an amazing corporation, and it didn't, your journey hasn't ended, right? But
absolutely not.
But you have you have probably the most amazing story of overcoming all adversity to get to such a powerful place. And such a great success story. So that's why I'm so excited to have you here and for her to share it with all of our viewers as well. So just start off, how many years ago did you start working at Chicago Liposuction Center? And you started off as...
I think we should pedal back a little bit more. I think one of the things that as a young girl, I just decided that I could do anything I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I never ever decided I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be a doctor. I just went with the flow, whatever was going on around me. And where could I help? Where could I look around and see who needed support and help? Right. And that was kind of what my mission was since I was young. I got an opportunity to work at an office where we were doing laser eye surgery. And then I got a few years into that and absolutely loved it. Even thought I was going to retire there. Then I got called to work in a facelift office. And I'm like, okay, God, I guess that's what you want me to go. But it is, because I ended up meeting the owner now who owns the cosmetic office. And we met there together and we worked there very well. And we decided at one point, he went off and started his own business, and he called me every year. Come on, Jeanne.
So he was trying to recruit you every year.
He did.
Yeah.
And, life took me on this path, and I decided one day it's probably a good idea to go on over there with him.
That's amazing. So if you just go back to you mentioned your childhood a little bit. Now your father wasn't your father
My father was a Baptist minister.
A Baptist minister.
Right.
Okay. So you got married at, how old were you?
I got married when I was 17.
17?
Yes.
Oh my God. I knew you got married young, but I didn't know that young.
Yes, I did. I got married when I was 17. I was in love.
You were in love?
I was in love. It was kind of one of those things, they say love at first sight. Yeah. I knew of my husband, but I didn't know him. Yeah. I finally got a chance to meet him when I was 16. And it was love at first sight.
Wow. So you met him at 16 and you're at 17, you're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm going to marry him.
Yeah. He lived in Texas. I lived here. The distance was so hard, another challenge. Yeah. But, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Right. And that was definitely the case. Wow. And we ended up only dating a short amount of time, 6 months. Wow. And then we ended up getting married.
And then, so then when did you have,
I had my first child at the age 18.
Wow. So you met him at 16, got married at 17, and had your first baby at 18. Okay. And how many years ago was that? Because now your baby is...
Okay. Do we want to tell my age?
I know. No. We won't tell your age. I don't want to give away your age.
My oldest son now is 20.
Okay.
And I now have 7 children.
7 children. Okay.
I birthed 4.
So you had 4 2. With your husband.
Right.
And then you adopted 2.
And I have a foster son.
Oh my God, I thought I had it bad with 2 boys.
Yeah, I look around and see where can I help? Where can I help? What can I do? So and that's how I got my family.
So you had 4 children with him, and then where did the 2 others come into play? Like you adopted 2 from?
Right. So when I had Andrew and Matthew, and then it turned out that I have a sister who struggles and has her whole entire life with mental illness and drug abuse.
Wow.
So when she was younger, I took in Anthony, and I was always in hope that she would grow out of that. Mm-hmm. And we gave her a lot of encouragement. And then she got pregnant again.
Wow.
By another gentleman. And so she was going to have an abortion.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't live with that. And I knew if she was in her right frame of mind, I don't want to get choked up, but if she was in her right frame of mind, she wouldn't want that either.
If she was in her right frame of mind, she wouldn't have wanted to have an abortion.
Would not wanted that. So as a sister, I said, no, we're having this baby and we'll take him.
Wow.
So then we got Christopher, which is awesome. And
how old is Christopher now?
Now Christopher is 15.
Wow.
So Anthony and Christopher are 17 and 15. They're exactly 2 years apart.
To the day?
Yep, they have the same birthday, 2 years apart.
They have the same birthday,
Yes.
2 years apart?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So they're like little miracle kids.
They are.
Like that's what are the chances?
I know. And all I wanted was a little girl, and I had 4 boys.
Oh
and
my
I was
God.
busy. I was so busy. When I had Matthew, I found myself, I was always an entrepreneur since I was young. I started babysitting at the age 8.
Wow.
For cash.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew, I started doing cleaning businesses and babysitting on the weekends. I always made enough money to at least pay my own food bill, my own car payment, and the rent. I always made sure that that's how my dad taught me. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself like kind of depressed being home all day. And I love children. In fact, I started off being a kindergarten teacher, but then when I was having the kids, I'm like, this is not going to work because I want to have this patience for the kids. So
you wanted to go out and get a job.
I didn't really want to, honestly. I was home, I was happy, but I was depressed. I didn't know why. I was doing exactly what I thought I should have done. Be a stay-at-home mom, take care of my kids, bake the cookies, all that.
And you had 7 kids, so you
at that point I didn't.
Oh,
at that point, I only had the 2 little guys. And when I found myself so depressed, I actually went to the doctor and I was telling this doctor, I'm like, I'm so depressed. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm happy. I'm doing exactly what I want. Why am I so depressed? I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
And this guy was brilliant. He was like, instead of trying to give me pills, he said, Jeannie, you're a social butterfly. Oh. You need to be out. You can't be trapped at home. He's like, you have cabin fever.
Yeah.
And he said, I know you love your kids, but maybe it'd be best for you to get a job.
See, I mean, there's so many women out there that's just like speaks to them because you want like the best for your kids.
Right.
You want to stay at home and be a beautiful mother.
Right.
But sometimes you need that time away from your kids, and your kids need it too.
Right. And it's not even that I want it to be away from them. It's just that I believe that we all have a purpose. God puts us here for a purpose, and I feel like my purpose is to help people and inspire people and grow people in all different aspects of life. Yeah. And being at home with a couple little kids, I wasn't thriving. I wasn't giving enough. And so that's kind of where I was being crushed.
Right.
And when this doctor said this to me and was able to share that I was a social butterfly, it hit me. I'm like, yeah, my dad was a Baptist minister. We were on stage every day.
Right.
We were taught to talk to people. We had to be at church 15 minutes early to greet people. We had to close everything down. Now I'm sitting in an apartment with a couple of kids talking goo goo gaga. I was not going to thrive.
So then fast forward to that where you had your 4 children and then you adopted 2. And then where did the seventh child come in? So that was a foster child?
That's a great question. So one day my son Matthew, we should say first we had Samantha and Caroline. I had Samantha and Caroline. They were surprise babies.
Okay.
I thought I had the 4 kids. I thought I was busy enough. I probably brought home $100 after I paid daycare at that point from my paycheck every week.
Oh my God, so you're barely.
I was like, I was literally like
you were working to pay for daycare.
I was working to pay for daycare so I could be a good human. So yeah.
Okay.
So then I found out I was having Samantha, and I was like upset with the doctors. Like, how could we be having a baby? I thought this wasn't. And then again, it happened with Caroline. I was on birth control with both the girls.
Oh my goodness.
And so when I
obviously that didn't work for you.
It didn't. I'll never forget the day I had the pregnancy test under my a towel, and I had all the kids, the boys, and my husband sit at the couch to tell them. They thought I was going to pull out a kitten because we were talking about babies or something that day. And so they thought I had went and got a kitten. Mm-hmm. And so when I put the towel off, I had the little pregnancy test in my hand. They were like, "What? Oh, Mom?" My husband was like, "What?" Yeah. But yeah. So we had Samantha and Caroline, which they are the two little cherries on top. I'm very, very thankful for them. Yeah. And, just when you think life's complete, God gave you enough. And the Bible tells you he's not going to give us more than we can handle. Matthew at 10 years old, he's now 18, he brought home a friend, and from the park, probably went to school together, and he just asked, could he spend the night? Could he spend the night? Could he spend the night? And, me, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'd rather have the kids at our house, the friends at our house, than my kids being out and about. Mm-hmm. And I just realized all of a sudden he wasn't going home. He wasn't going home. And this boy, to this day, he's never ever complained or told me anything unhappy about his home condition. He just loved being with us. And it had been almost the whole summer. And one day I realized Matt and James were at each other's and keep bickering. I'm like, you know what, James, you need to go home. And so I was taking him home on a Saturday night, and he was really sad. And I'm like, why are you so sad? I thought you'd be happy. And he was like, well, I really wanted to go to church tomorrow. I'm like, oh. He was getting me. I was like, boy, I'm a little bit smarter than that. I'm like, I'll come back in the morning and get you, and we'll go to church. Yeah. Well, I went back to get him, and we went to church, and we were driving home, and I looked back, and he was sleeping. I was like, James, why are you sleeping? It's 1:00. Why are you asleep? Yeah. He's 10 years old. He's like, well, I didn't get any sleep last night. My family was up partying all night. And I felt like that small. Oh my God. And not that he was in a bad situation. Again, he's never complained about what his family life was like, but he got to see a different lifestyle being in our home. And his mother was very humble in allowing me to take him. And he was he's the eighth child. Wow.
And So did he have a mother and a father, or just she was a single mom?
She was a single mom.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was the baby, and so she wanted what was best for him. And if James was happy with us, she wanted him to be happy.
And so your son just one day came home with a kid from the park, and he ended up staying this whole summer with you. Mm-hmm. And then you tried
with us forever.
You tried taking him home, and you just couldn't, and talked to his mom and said,
well, one day when I see him sleeping in the back, I'm like, what's going on? Once I heard him tell me he didn't get no sleep. I said, you know what? You never have to go home again.
Oh my God.
I just have to help him not fight with Matthew. But James is an amazing person. His heart is so soft. He's a peacemaker. And I always tell him that God put him in our family for a reason, because when you mix, we've got, the two we adopted, we've got James, and then our 4, there's clashing with your children no matter what. Mm-hmm. And Anthony and Matthew would clash so bad, but James would get in there and he would say, hey, no, you, hey, and he would stop that. And my daughter, Samantha, at one point, she went through a really hard time in her life, and James was able to be there as a brotherly but man figure. Wow. And help her feel confident and safe. Even though she had all the other brothers, he just stepped up to being like that really close person that she felt like she could confide in. And so I told him, I said, God had a purpose for you. Again, we can't start choking up and crying because I can, but he
you can cry. It's
his role is so important to our family.
Like you could, how old is he right now, James?
He's 19.
19. So you've had him for 9 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's your son now.
Yeah. No, he was my son that day. I told him you never have to go home again.
Oh my God. Right. I don't know, honestly, Jeannie, I'm going to choke up. Right. I don't know how many women in your situation would be like, I can't even fathom having another child, another mouth to feed, somebody else to take care of. And I mean,
well, that's the fortunate thing for me. I always tell people I don't know how people do it without faith, because I have faith, and because of having faith, I don't fear probably the way some people do fear. My belief is that if God gives us a challenge or a mission, then he's going to also provide the strength, the needs to accommodate whatever it is that we're needing to do for him.
Amazing.
So when my sister has a little baby that's 6 months old and she's acting a fool, and I can see it, and I know in my right mind that she would never want that for her baby. It was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Then when she got pregnant again, it was a no-brainer. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, okay, God, like, what do you think I'm Superwoman? Because now I'm going to have 5. And then I got pregnant again, and I was like, At that point, I was like, hey, you know what? I don't know what's going on, but I think he just thinks I should have a flood of children.
Like, I'm just going to move to a farm.
I know. I'm like...
Okay, so now you have 7 children. You are COO of a multi-million-dollar corporation, and you've worked with them for 5 years, right? And you've had your own. You started your own company.
Oh yeah, we've grown. That business we grew, and we've done all these kind of crazy things and tried. We call my boss. A raging entrepreneur.
Yeah, right.
And he tries, and he's so smart in his thinking, just to keep trying something new, just keep trying, until you find exactly what the right fit is.
Right. So you started with him 5 years ago. Now, what happened? Like, you have an amazing story about what happened with your husband,
right? And
I think so many women can really relate to that story,
right?
So, just take us through, like, about 5 years ago, what kind of happened in your marriage?
So, like I said, with my boss, we had worked together in a corporate organization, and he kept that feeler out there for me. Mm-hmm. Well, in my life with my ex now, we had a beautiful marriage, absolutely beautiful marriage. And one day I found out that it was not real.
What do you mean? Like, how do you mean that not real?
There was things going on that I was unaware of. And I think it's probably because of having the kids and being so busy, and it's mainly just to do with my husband. I don't know, maybe he got lost in his head. I think because of me not having as much fear as some people do, mm-hmm. I feel like now in hindsight, maybe mm-hmm. I pushed him too hard. Mm. Maybe all these things, when you hear me talk about having all these kids and then adopting kids and you have a foster son, you're like, oh my gosh, Jeanne, how did you do that? Mm. And I look at people when I say it and I don't think anything of it, but then people look at me like, how are you doing this? How are you going to work every day? And I'm like, I don't know. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
But I never in that moment, in my growth spurts, I never even stopped to think if I was going too fast for someone else. Oh. And if he could keep up with that. I never even thought about that. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I could push him
maybe he couldn't
so hard, right? And so I did. I believe now that I grew faster than he could. Mm. And some things happened in our life that was hurtful to me. And I tell people all the time that I'm an emotional, intelligent person. So, there's people that have like the most smartest minds and the way they can think. When I see them, their think process, and I'm like, how do they know that? Mm-hmm. How are they that amazing? Kind of like my boss. I'm like, mm-hmm. when he talks, sometimes I'm just like amazed with what comes out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's the same way back to me. Mm-hmm. The way I love and the way I can grow people and share and absorb a bunch of people and have them flock to me just because of the way I love. Mm-hmm. Like, we marry each other mm-hmm. with those strengths. But right. with my husband, somehow I lost him somewhere. And I think because of all the little kids and all we had to do, all the must-dos, we lost each other. Mm-hmm. And in spite of having a beautiful marriage, I realized I was becoming so unhappy. And I was sad all the time, and I couldn't get his attention. And I'm a communicator, and I was telling him everything I was feeling and trying to figure out what could I do? What could I do more? And he had nothing to say. And so
something was going on with him.
Something was
too.
going on.
Right.
And nothing really made sense. And I tried everything, any type of counseling, reading books, talking to friends and family. We tried everything, and it wasn't going to work. And so I finally realized it wasn't going to work, and I needed to get to safety. And that's when I called my boss, and I said...
So what do you mean by get to safety? So was he starting to change mentally, so you were really worried about
the
safety of your children?
The biggest thing that happened was when he showed up at my work one day after he had a job for 15 years, and the lady that he worked for loved him so much. He showed up one day, and he was just like, I lost my job. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out later. And then I go home, and we try to work it out, and I find out he hasn't paid our mortgage. I mean, here I am also working all this time, a great income. At that point, I wasn't only making it $100 a week anymore. I had worked my way up. And to find out we were going to lose it all. I didn't even know. Not only did he lose his job, but we were going to lose it all.
Because he wasn't paying your mortgage.
Right, the mortgage.
And you had the money.
Everything, right.
You were making good money.
Right.
So, and you left it in his hands because you were working so hard, and you had 7 kids, and you were about ready to lose everything because he hadn't taken care of the bills, which he was supposed to. So how long was he out of a job before he told you?
Oh, no, he told me the same day.
Oh, he told you that day.
He did. He told me the same day. But then again, that day I think was a big relief to him because I feel like he probably had a mask on for so long, and he got to take his mask off, and he didn't have to pretend to be strong and a hard worker or whatever he had pretended to be. He didn't have to do that anymore. And all of a sudden I saw this other man that I was already confused, and I couldn't figure out what the confusion was. Now I had this other person that had no drive, no reason to try.
Wow. So he just lost his job, and then he just let go.
And it was done.
Done.
Yeah.
Never recovered from it.
Did not.
So what happened how did you find out that he wasn't paying the mortgage and all these
other... Well, that night when I came home, I'm like, okay, where are we?
What was he doing with all the money then?
Never told me.
What? So you still to this day don't know?
I still don't know. My boys have even tried to ask him.
And nothing.
He just says that when they're older, he'll tell them. But you know what? I've learned I don't want to know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Again, the years I had with him were so amazing. I have magical years, and people think of that type of a life in a movie, and I lived it. And I had these children. And so what I had to kind of realize in my head was, again, just like I did for my sister, in her right mind, she wouldn't want that for her kids. In my husband's right mind, he wouldn't want that for us either. So I had to be strong enough for both of us, for them, for our kids. And so that's when I called my boss, and I just said, I think it might be a good time for me to come over now. I needed to get myself in a situation where I had more control of my destiny instead of working for a corporate organization where I'm just a number on a spreadsheet, where they don't even know Jeanne Shockey or what potential she has. If you're going to go off of my resume, if you realize I never went to a day of college in my life, you might say, oh, well, then she can't do this. Where my boss had an opportunity to work hand in hand with me in the same environment, corporate. And we got along so well, and we knew what to do to make it work. And so he saw a different side that corporate never would have seen. So for us to get together is how, we got where we are now.
You just mentioned you never even went to college.
Right.
I didn't even think about that. I would just assume that you would have went to college, but no, because you got married at 17.
Right.
You had your first child at 18. You raised 7 children. And then all in this mix, your husband completely lost his mind.
I was never 20. I was never 20.
You never turned 20. You never went out drinking.
No.
You never did any of that fun stuff. Oh my gosh.
I was always a grown woman. instant grown woman.
So then how did that transpire with your husband? So you went home that night and you basically like said, look, you haven't paid the mortgage. What's going on?
No, I was very, with my dad being a Baptist minister, I watched him counsel marriage a lot. And I always knew I would never be divorced. That's why this was a very difficult thing for me, because I'm not a failure. I don't quit. I don't believe in quitting.
Right.
And I always knew there was a way to get out of whatever situation it was, whether someone cheats on you or whatever it is, there's a way out as long as you're both working to find that.
Right.
But it has to be both.
Right.
It can't just be one. And none of us deserve to be in a situation where you let someone else control your outcome. And I think that's what the world does a lot. We spend a lot of time blaming people for where we are. But it's not very good to do that, because if you start to blame everybody for where you are, then you're giving them control of your future.
Right.
I had to blame my own self. And the longer I stayed in that place and I didn't get myself moving in another direction, I was to blame.
Yeah.
Whether it was sad that I was going to be out of my beautiful marriage or not, it wasn't smart to stay there. And I had to make a move, and I did. And we ended up in a dumb 18-month divorce for no reason at all, because there was nothing to take. I literally moved out and rented a house, you guys. I went to, I don't even remember, some type of a Goodwill place, and I bought a bed, a used bed, a nightstand, a picture for the wall that had inspirational words all over it, like dream and achieve and accomplish, and a lamp for $130. And I moved into a house that was large enough for me and my kids, myself, that first night, with $130, a little bit of furniture. That's what I did. And I laid there that first night, and I knew I was going to have to bring all the kids over here. And I just had all the kids just grab their bed and their clothes and come over. And I left everything else behind. And we just moved on from there. By the time our divorce was finalized, I think that's when my ex realized that he really made a bad choice. And he showed up at my office with a gun. And luckily, again, because of my faith and my knowledge of how God's going to protect us, that day I had a conference call, and my boss had said at the end of the call, he's like, I'm going to call you after this, so answer your phone. I'm going to call you in about 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. And in that time, I'm like, okay, we'll have to run to the bathroom. So I went to go, someone was in our bathroom. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go down the hall. Oh my gosh. And I went down the hall. I never do that. Most of the time, if I get stuck at work, I'm at my desk and you can't even get me to leave the room. But this day he was like, I'm going to call you. And I went down the hall to the bathroom, and I'm down there and my staff's knocking on the door and calling me. And I'm like, is this a joke? I can't go to the bathroom. But my ex had come in, and he had my life insurance policy, and he had thrown bullets at the staff. And he was just like out of his mind. And I wasn't there to see it, but when they handed me the bullet and they picked him up out of the parking lot, and I saw my policy, I wanted just to pass out. And then I thought, oh my goodness, if he left, where's he going? If he's in a mode, maybe he went to the kids. And so we had to gather all the kids from the different schools, because they were in 3 different schools at that time. And everybody had come to the office, and it was just too sad. The police ended up finding him, and he was in jail for over 1.5 years.
Wow.
And as time was going by, it was affecting me, because I loved not only him, but his family. And I realized that he was going to end up in prison eventually. And then he was going to end up just coming out pissed and vicious and learning bad behavior in there. And I still love the man. I still love him, and I couldn't leave him in jail anymore. So I had to go and tell the state's attorney, please, let's do something. Let's get him out. Let's get him to compromise. Let's make him move to Texas. Let's make him get mental help. Let's help him, so when he gets out, he doesn't come out attacking.
Right.
So I'm gonna have a little piece of paper saying, I have a restraining order.
Yeah.
And that's not going to do me any good.
No, it's not. So when he went into your work, did he have a gun or he just threw bullets at you guys?
I mean, I never even got to see him. They said he had a gun in a holster.
Yeah.
When the police ended up finding his car, they said he had 2 holsters in the trunk and 2 different types of ammunition.
Wow.
But they could never find the gun.
Wow. So he was, if you, thank God you went to the bathroom, because if he would have saw you, I mean, what if he would have shot you?
I mean, he was on a mission, right? He was there for a reason. And again, it's my faith. It's, the strength that I believe God is going to protect us. And he did. And maybe my husband needed to be on lockdown for a little while to shake his butt up.
Yeah.
Because he took a deep dive.
Oh yeah, deep dive. Wow.
He's been out now for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and I haven't heard from him. He did end up taking that agreement to get mental help, to go to Texas with his family where they could love him and just to stay clear from us. And so he hasn't bothered us. He hasn't, nothing. I still stay in communication with his sisters, and it's sad because the kids, they missed out on seeing their dad.
Yeah, right.
But they're okay. My kids are amazing. We're a team. We're in this together.
I mean, what were you thinking when you went to his parole hearing and begged the judge to let him out of jail? I mean, honestly, Jeannie, I don't know how many women would have done that. Like after this guy could have killed you, and thank God, by luck or by God, you're in the bathroom, and then you just love him, and you just couldn't see him.
His mom passed away while he was in jail. And his mom is someone that's very dear to me. She taught me to be part of the woman that I am. She's a God-fearing woman and loved everybody all the time. And she didn't find fault with people. And when she passed away and he was in there, my oldest son and my 2 little girls, we jumped on a plane and we went to her funeral, and I saw the family, and it's not fun being around the family that they kind of despise you. Their brother's in jail, and it's my fault.
Right.
And, I wasn't big for, the blame game. So it was what it was. But I just thought I don't know, something came over me that she wouldn't want him there. And if he was willing to compromise, then I think it would be safer for all of us if he didn't come out like so angry. And I needed him to hear me say, I want him out. And I'll remember that day the rest of my life. He looked at me like, what? Like, is she crazy now? She's getting me out? What?
Yeah, right.
But I felt so relieved. Every night, even though he was in jail, I felt so sad. I felt so sad. And when I got to get him out so he could go on with his life, I just felt relief. I felt like
release the guilt.
Yes,
you felt guilty.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I'm like, I realized when I was off with the kids on my own and working so hard and trying to pay the bills and keeping everything going, I'm like, man, maybe that's how he felt. Maybe I never got to feel that because he was an accountant and he was taking care of the money part of it, and I was just doing the work and doing the baking and the cooking and the birthday parties and buying their clothes and making sure we were ready for vacation and ready for this and that. And I let him have that peace. I never knew what it felt like to be in that role until it was. And then when I felt it all by myself, I'm like, maybe it was too much for him. And he didn't know how to express it because not everybody communicates the same.
Right.
And I think that all of it got to me. It's like little things happen at a time, and it just got to me. And so I finally decided I need to let him out. If he'll come out and he'll stick to these guidelines, it'll be safer for all of us, and he won't be so mad. He can go back to having a life, and we could all have a life. And I thought it would be good for my kids too, because I don't want my kids to be bitter at him. Right. My youngest daughter, she's so amazing. She has a heart of gold. She said to me at the Christmas time, this last Christmas, Mom, when I get 18 years old, I just want you to know I'm going to do Christmas at your house, And if Dad will let me, I'm going to go visit him for New Year's.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And
because they still love him.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's because we haven't thrown stones at him and talked so bad about him. I remind the kids of what their dad has done and did do with them. And so they know that he was in there and he's in there. Mm-hmm. And it's up to him, how he's gonna come out of the whole thing. I couldn't control that.
Yeah. So you literally just moved on with your life and just became like this, you created a whole new life for yourself. I mean, really moving on and going through that adversity and just pushing through the fear and creating this whole new life. And you started off with a house that you rented with one bed.
Right.
I mean, that's just, honestly, Jeanne, your story is remarkable. Hopefully all of you viewers, if you know someone that's going through that or going through this life challenge, just reach out and, share this video with them, because there's so many great tips with this. And that's ultimately why Jeanne's here, to really share her story, to, help you guys. And, maybe you could find some
you guys, this is very personal. The only last thing I'd like to say that Will Smith said, the best things in life are on the other side of fear.
Oh, right.
And I love that, because right when things look so scary and you're so afraid, if you just take that leap, mm-hmm. you'll never know how amazing it is if you don't take the leap. So I would say take the leap of faith and do it. Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeanne.
Thank you for having me.
For sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Really amazing. Another episode of Fierce Females. And Jeanne, you are a fierce female. I have got to give you your shirt. I almost forgot about that. Let me unmic myself. Here it is. Sorry. I have a different mic here. Hold on. I should really get like a table here so I don't have to,
I'm glad. If we can help somebody.
Let me re-mic myself.
Okay.
So Jeanne, you deserve
I qualify.
Big, fierce female, because you overcome all the obstacles with 7 children and adopting and everything. This is cool. This is totally you.
Thank you.
So thank you again for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And hopefully it inspires some of you out there.
Hopefully. Bye.
Take care. Thank you, Jeanne.
Amazing.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fierce Females. If you have any questions or would like to submit a response, please email us at admin.fiercefemale.info. Again, that's admin.fiercefemale.info. Thanks.